Welcome back to Chapter 7. In this video, we'll be talking about subsections of content and more tags that tell you to separate the content you have. First thing, we have article. This represents a self-contained content that can be syndicated, or published or broadcasted simultaneously, just like you have a TV show. Take, for example, The Simpsons. It can be shown on Fox, it can be shown on CBS if they have the license, it can be shown on FX, it can be shown on Comedy Central. But regardless of wherever it's shown, it should have these self-contained items in it so that it can be shown without any separate modifications. Just like if you have an article, it can be syndicated, and it should make sense on its own without any supporting or surrounding material. It can have some branding in it, such as if you want to include the author information or anything in that, but basically it's a self-contained content. Examples include forum posts, blog entries, magazine or newspaper articles if you still read a newspaper. The use of this is more of a judgment call. We'll get into what the other item is in just a minute. Section. This represents self-contained content, but is not usually syndicated. If anyone has experience with div tags, section kind of replaced div tag because div tag has its use, but it's a little overused. We'll get to that in just a minute. A block of related content that is not appropriate for articles should be encapsulated in a section tag. And again, use of this should be more of a judgment call. There's really no right or wrong answer to say whether or not something can be an article or a section, or even if section can be used at all. It's more of a judgment call. Next we have address. Most people that use this think of this as a postal address marker, but it can be used for any contact information, such as an email address, a phone number that can be an address, website URL that is a web address, or even a postal address if you want to use it. If it's not related to the content or the contact information of the person that's publishing this or the company that's related, then you should use a P tag. Yes, it is more semantic to use an address tag in an address field such as time and date, but in some cases, if the address is not relating to the content, then it should not be wrapped in an address tag. It cannot be the child of a paragraph tag. So for example, this item at the bottom, it says find me at 123 Main Street. You should not do that. You should have address just by itself. Next we have block quote. This encloses text that is an extended quotation. This differs from the Q tag because a Q tag is in line, and a block quote is block. Block quote does not automatically add quotations, whereas the Q tag should. A block quote is usually used to mark up customer testimonials or user comments, in some cases also called a pull quote because it can pull a quotation, hence the name, outside of the standard text. It cannot be a child of a paragraph tag. It should also be an element just by itself, just like address. Next is the horizontal rule, or an HR tag. It is often seen as a void tag, as in it has the slash in it. Again, we're trying to make this towards more HTML5 standards or XHTML standards with the outdated aspects. So if you see a void tag, it's just old code. It should be just the HR by itself. This renders what is known as a horizontal line or rule. The thematic break between paragraphs should be used when creating an HR tag. For example, when you're changing scenes in a story. You know how whenever you're reading a novel and you're changing scenes and it has a little 3 asterisks or something separating the top content from the bottom content? This is the exact same thing. You are changing the scene in the story somewhat drastically. Prior to HTML5, this basically had no meaning, as in you put an HR tag in there and it was perfectly fine. But now, thanks to HTML5, we have the ability to change the topic with the horizontal rule. Will this be used in future aspects of coding? Maybe, maybe not. There's really no way to know right now. But for now, search engines and browsers are using this to determine a change in the topic. Alright, so let's take this colorful example that we had in the last video and add a few things. If you notice, we have no main section, but instead an article and 2 sections inside. You can have the article and the 2 sections inside of a main tag. That is perfectly fine. You can also have block quotes to the side of sections. Sections allow you to elaborate on the content being provided. The article allows the wrapping of it. And the block quote provides you to show off something that somebody said or emphasizing something in the content that you want to draw attention to. Inside the section, you can also have the horizontal rules to change the topic of the content that's being provided. Alright, that is the end of this video. In the next video, we're going to be talking about non-semantic wrappers such as div and span. Please, by all means, go through the practice and determine more of the use of the address and section tags and the other ones discussed in this video. And later on, we'll actually be talking about a breakdown of these items on actual templates and websites. If you have any questions about this or anything in Chapter 7, please let me know via email or hit me up on Twitter, and hopefully I'll get back to you with the correct answer.